Welcome to the Laying Foundations podcast. This is your co-host Davis Hambrick. Joining alongside me today is Walker Lott. What's up, Walker?
Davis Hambrick, what is up, man? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Walker Lott. That was weird that you did that, but how you doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm doing really good. We had a wonderful, fantastic. Honestly, dude, I'm
Awesome,
still pumped. I'm pumped from it right now. I'm still on a high
awesome.
from it. It was so
That's
much
right.
fun. So
It
we got
was
to talk to Jesse and Rene, and they are with a podcast called Learnings and Missteps.
that's
In
right.
with apostrophe missteps. They are some really, really cool dudes. Like, I'm serious. We could have gone on for
Two
hours
hours. Yeah,
talking,
exactly.
easily talking with them. And guys, I'm gonna warn you, the podcast is a little long. We might split it into two, might not. It might just be one, just be a long podcast you have to listen to. But seriously, listen to it until the end because it is so good. They have an incredible story. They're
Mm,
brothers, and we joke about it multiple times. They got a big age gap, and it
that's
was,
right.
it was pretty funny. But no, they have some really incredible wisdom that they just poured out throughout the entire podcast, but especially at the end. So for real, if you
Mm.
have the time and if you can make it till then, listen to the end because it is so good. Davis, what you get from it?
Man, it was pretty cool. We joked a lot, but getting to talk about the older and younger dynamic,
Yep.
that's the thing that I really try to unpack because obviously we're the younger guys right now, but at some point, we're going to be the older guys and we're going to be
Mhm.
looking at the next generation. So, as these past 2 weeks, we've been talking specifically a lot about trades and that's the part of me of being working for a general contractor now full time is I want to get to know these tradesmen. Yeah, I want to know what they're doing, what they're installing, but I want to know them. And that was
Yeah.
really at the heart of this podcast was like, how do we treat others? How do we treat the person beside me? How do I look at myself and think, okay, you are enough. I love that from
Yeah.
Jesse. And then taking
So
ownership
good.
with Rene, those two things alone, that's worth getting to the end of the podcast because in so many times in life, no matter if tradesman, construction, if you're a lawyer, a doctor, or if you're just somebody sweeping the street,
Scraping the
being
sweet.
there you go. Being heard, someone telling you you are enough. Like
Yeah.
those words just hit home to me. And I'm just thinking, wow, that's the whole goal of this podcast. The whole goal of this podcast is to know that we want to share the gospel. That's we're never gonna downplay the gospel or knowing Jesus Christ. But secondly,
Yeah.
is we want people to after they've encountered us that we've somehow added value and that we've influenced them and we've given them light and that's the whole point of the podcast is to just add value, make people feel like they've been heard, and that we've cultivate a relationship that man, I was just really excited. I don't know. I could ramble about this for a
And
while, but getting to meet Jesse and Rene, like you said, you just have like this kind of high energy right now where it's just like, man, I'm so thankful I got to meet them. And
oh,
man,
without
I'm
a
so
doubt.
thankful that COVID entered Zoom. And because if we didn't have Zoom, we probably never done the podcast. And then, wow, I would have never gotten to meet these guys. So,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't, I can't, couldn't say it better than you did. And guys, I just want to add, we've had a couple of people reach out to us now about our podcast and just send it in info at layingfoundations.com. If you have any questions, if there's something that you like that we're doing, is there something that we can do better, or you just want to say, hey, like, please, please, please reach out to us because we would absolutely love to hear from you. It has meant the world to Davis and I to hear from the men that we've heard from
anybody.
thus far. I know Davis can attest. So please, anything, just reach out to us. We'd absolutely love to hear it from you.
And let's just clear it's contact at laying
Sorry,
dash foundation.
contact. You can tell I don't run that email. Davis runs that email. It's
Well,
contact at
oh,
layingfoundations.com.
secrets out.
Would it be would it be a podcast if I didn't mess up or a word?
There you
That's
go.
awesome. Guys, we'll let you get to the podcast. Again, listen to the end if you have time. It's incredible. So without further ado, Jesse and Rene. Welcome to the show, Jesse and Rene, man. We are so happy and excited to have y'all here. So for those of you listening, they are part of Learnings and Missteps. So they have their own podcast, talk a lot about construction, a lot about lean, all types of things. But we'll get to hear more about that on this show. just to start off, where are y'all from? Who are you? What do you do? Just tell us about yourself.
Awesome. Well, Rene, you want to hit it?
I was gonna say, do you want to go first?
I'm going first. That way you get some time to
Dale.
think. So I'm from San Antonio, Texas, born and raised. I still live in San Antonio. I do not intend to leave San Antonio. Rene and I are brothers. He's my baby brother. I'm very proud of him, by the way. I'm a plumber by trade. I'm a second generation plumber. My dad's a plumber, and I entered the construction industry officially back in '95, right out of high school, and I've been in it ever since. It's been the most amazing experience, and lots and lots of learnings that I've had along the way, and which have led me to launching this podcast with Rene, and then led us to connect with you guys. I mean, thank you for reaching out to us and having like that's awesome. I was like, Ray, they want us to be on a podcast. You want to be on it? Yeah, let's do it. All right. Like it's super exciting. So thank you.
Well,
Yes,
thank
sir.
y'all for being on ours.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
And Jesse, you've been in construction longer than Walker and I've been alive, so you got
Yeah.
a lot of knowledge right there.
Yeah.
Old man.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
There you go. Well, what about you, Rene?
So yeah, I'm Rene Duron. I work for San Antonio Water System here in San Antonio, Texas. Born and raised. I am a field utility coordinator, and I actually just recently got this job. I recently received a promotion. I was a leak detection technician, and now I'm a
Cool.
coordinator. Um,
Nice.
I kind of stumbled into the construction business. I was actually on the route to getting a early childhood education degree, and I was working at a children's center and everything. And I met my wife, and we had kids, and I
That's
needed to
awesome.
make some money and get out
There
of
you go.
mom's house. So that's how I got into trades, and I've never looked back. I like it.
I love that. That's awesome.
You're the first one we've had on here that
Right.
was an early education before
Right.
It's usually engineers or something similar that turn into construction. That's awesome.
Right. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Because possible. I mean, if you wanted to, probably when you get to older brother's age, you could teach construction and get to help others. I love that.
That's right.
Yo, I'm doing it right now. Like I'm teaching, I mean, not teaching construction, but I get the opportunity to teach and train, people around me. So, and it's totally weird, but like a lot of the things I learned in college teaching children, I directly apply to teaching adults. So it's
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start to notice that we're not a lot different, right?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
We just look a little older and have more responsibility. But guys,
Oh,
we
yeah.
appreciate y'all being willing. I mean, I'm excited to have you guys on there. I've been listening to y'all's podcast, like I mentioned before, and now that it's learnings and missteps, we're gonna get you guys on the map and get you out. So there we go. But man, I appreciate it, and I love to hear about people's story because I think your story is how you bond and have relationships and how you learn from others. So both of y'all appreciate that with what y'all shared with us, and kind of just going into the podcast. Let's talk about why did we start the podcast and what was really the core of wanting to start this podcast for y'all.
Yeah, for me, it's a Rene. So people really need to know Rene is he's my brother, but he's also part of my advisory council. He's like the most practical man I know. He's 18 years younger than me, but he's got some wisdom, man, that's amazing.
Awesome.
It happened during the lockdown, right? My job at the time, I was serving the central United States for Turner Construction, and all of a sudden I couldn't travel anymore. Right? They said you need to stay home because you can get people sick, and so I had plenty of time to think, and I was getting really frustrated about being locked up in the house, but also the before that, I spent any opportunity I could get in engaging with educators and students and parents about careers in the industry. Man, I would jump all over it. And so now I'm in lockdown. It's like, man, nothing's happening. Like I'm just here at the house, pity party, feeling sorry for myself. And a dear friend of mine, she recommended that I watch a documentary on Danny Trejo, who's, I don't know if you know who, he came out on Machete. He's usually like the convict or the bad guy in movies. It's awesome, dude. He comes out. You've seen him. I know you've seen him. Uh, Anyhow, they were interviewing him, and at some part in the interview, they asked him if he was frustrated that he hadn't been a leading man yet, had he, because he wasn't like the main guy. And his answer was like, "Nope. I've been in over 200 movies, and I got paid for all of them. And with that money, I've been able to travel to prisons and talk to people
Wow.
about recovery
Really
Wow.
and
cool.
it, yes, overcoming addiction, because
Wow.
that was his story. He was in prison.
Mm.
Um, and when I heard that, I was like, okay, I don't have any excuses. Right?
Mm.
Like I'm complaining because my job, I'm traveling, I can't talk to students, and now COVID, I can't leave the house.
Mm.
Uh, and I had recently, well, not really, it was about a year back, I had been interviewed on a podcast by Adam Gates, a friend of mine, and it was like super cool. Like it was the awesomest experience. I said, well, hell, I just need to start a podcast. And so I texted Rene that day. I'm like, dude, I'm thinking of starting a podcast. What do you think? And then he replied, he says, are you telling me you want me to be your Echo Charles? I don't know if y'all listen to the
Oh
Jocko.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Heck yeah.
Love it.
I said, yes, let's do that. And we, we planned it out. And I think within what, 6 or 8 weeks, we launched it. And
Awesome.
we've been going hard ever since. How about you,
And I
Renee?
had no idea. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like I thought, I for real was thinking like, yeah, we'll like record a couple episodes, and after we get like 0 followers for a couple of months, like we're gonna just drop it.
Right.
But no, we like
Hey.
freaking blew up all pretty fast. Well, I mean, blew up to me, and we're
Right.
picking up heat and running with it, and there's just like the content just never ends.
That's
There's
right.
always something to talk about, and it's super meaningful to me. Jesse said it before. I gained like tremendous value in these conversations because, like, I get to talk to a wide spectrum of,
Right.
construction minded people,
That's right.
and you don't, who else gets to do that? You know what I mean? Like a lot of times, I don't know, I feel the pressure of going to a job site, and the big shot is there, and I have this pressure in my head that's probably not real to say the right thing, or
Right.
not make a fool of myself. But I get to talk to these kinds of people
Every
on a
day.
podcast
Right.
Right.
where like we're the boss almost, you know what I mean, and we kind of call the shots. So it's pretty cool to learn from these people in this space.
It is.
Well, I mean, what's crazy is, and I'm sure for you guys as well, but me and Davis have gotten an opportunity, incredible opportunities to speak to people that we normally would never ever talk to. I mean, we got to speak to the Perkins Builders brothers and the Essential Craftsmen on YouTube, and like these guys, we watch them all the time, but now we actually have gotten a chance to speak with them, and some incredible people from the industry, real estate, construction, engineering, people that like we have no business talking to, but now because we have this platform, right, we're able to reach out to them and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing, this is what we love to do, we love construction, we want to learn more about you, about the
Right.
trades, about you name it.
Right.
And people are all for it because that's their passion as well. So when you connect two passions together, right, you typically have an equal, I don't know what you say, a mind of, hey, I want to help them too. I want to get this message out as well. So I'm sure y'all have experienced exactly the same thing.
Oh, definitely.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I so far it's mostly me bugging my personal friends and saying, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Right.
Because, like y'all mentioned, I've been in in the industry since before y'all were born, so I know a lot of people.
Sorry
Yeah.
about
No, it's good. It's good, man. I love it.
Calling you out.
that.
But and that's an important thing that I think I wish I learned earlier in my career, was to value the relationships that I
Mhm.
built. Because early in my career, and when I say early, probably the first 15 years, I did not value those. I didn't treasure and cherish those relationships like I should have.
Yeah.
And so luckily I finally figured that out. And so now it's a phone call and they're like, yeah, man, I'm in. When are we doing it?
That's awesome.
And they're very gracious with their time and with their wisdom. And it's a really special experience for me. And then being able to share it with Rene is like super cool, right? Like back when we go forward, I always think it's kind of weird, but I think like, down the road, 10, 20 years, we'll be able to go back and listen to the
Yeah.
conversations that we were having,
Exactly.
and the time that we spent together. So that's pretty special because I'm a little bit of a workaholic.
Yeah.
And so me carving time out to
Right.
spend it with my family, Rene can attest to it. I'm not really good at that.
Mm, right.
Yeah, it's I I found that it's really cool. And for those of you out there who are thinking about starting a podcast, you might as well do it. And I think it's funny, Rene, that you talked about earlier. You don't have many people listening. Me and Davis used to joke and say we had both of our moms as our
Right.
two listeners.
And then, hey, and then we had a guy that emailed us that I guess he was listening to Central Craftsman
His
and
name's
heard
Peter.
about us.
Yeah,
And he said, yeah, Peter
shout
Kern.
out, shout out.
Yeah, and then he
Peter.
said, "Hey, I'm the third guy, by the way," and I thought that was
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
hilarious.
Like, okay, yeah,
That's
you,
funny.
It's awesome.
right? But guys, I sorry, Renee, what were you saying?
No, I was just laughing.
Oh,
Uh,
I was,
well,
I was,
I was just gonna say
you know,
I can relate to Jesse here in the fact that okay, we're not gonna keep saying about the 1995 in construction. I'm trying to stop, but
It's good. It's good.
between the first few years I was in construction, I've been open on the podcast saying I was kind of a hothead. I was good at a lot of different things, manual labor, getting after it, going and trying my best. But when it came to relationships, I just kind of ran over people and didn't. I really didn't. I didn't cherish the relationships and the people and realizing, hey, if you treat everybody the right way, most of the time you're going to be able to do things a lot faster, a lot better, smarter. And Davis, you don't just have the solutions to everything. You can build this team. And so whenever we get on this podcast and we got to talk to a guy named Nick Chaplow, and it was my favorite podcast because he said
awesome.
there's four
Yeah.
things people do in construction. It's quality, safety, and schedule. And the last one's relationships. And if you don't even get this one, the last one right, the other three don't matter. And the
Yep.
last one really has to do with, yourself. Like you really, really have to work on yourself to be able to go, okay, I can go talk to this guy. Doesn't really matter, who he is. If he's VP, if he's a laborer, I'm just going to talk to him and just genuinely care about him and want to know what he's got going on. And so that kind of gets me into the next part. Um, one of the reasons I got into construction was, I'm a pretty compassionate person now, but I used to not be. But I love to just go talk to people that are like totally strangers on the job site and just go hear their story and talk to them. And so, Jesse, for you, what has it been like going through the trades from 1995 to now and seeing, like you said, you were a second generation plumber. I'm sure you felt at certain points, oh, you're just a dirty plumber, or hey, what is that feeling like? And then kind of unpack, what do you think? What's the misconception around, oh, just dirty construction workers?
Mm, that's a big question, but I appreciate that. One of the things, because I'm assuming you've got an audience that's probably around your age. So one thing that's consistent is we get paid on Friday, and that's kind of important. Now, back then, we got our paychecks and they were paper. We didn't have debit cards. We had to go to the bank to deposit it or cash it. And I share that specifically, one, because it's the reality of how things have changed right now. I don't know the last time I went to the bank. I bust out a card or I tap my phone or Cash App, or like all this stuff make it super easy to spend money. Um, but when I got out of high school, I got that first job, and it was just supposed to be a summer job so I could save money to pay for room and board. I was trying to be a walk-on at Tyler Junior College to the baseball team because the Astros, like, we didn't have email back then, so it was hard for them to get a hold of me. That's a joke, right? I wasn't that good. Anyhow, and I remember going to the bank every Friday to cash or deposit my check, and sweaty and, hair all messed up because I had a hard hat on, just disheveled and, working. And there was these two dudes that I would see there frequently, and we were about the same age. and they were dressed nice. I'm like, man, I want to dress like that too, but we got different jobs. And there was a obvious avoidance. Like they
Right.
kind of, one day I got nosy and kind of peeked over. One guy's like, I got a raise, and he's showing his buddy his check, and I saw it. I said, man, we come here every week, so we get paid on the same frequency. And that boy's broke. Like I'm making more money than him. Like this ain't bad. Okay.
Right.
Now you talked about the feeling of them damn dirty construction workers. There's times where I'll leverage that
Mm.
because I'm a construction worker, and if we need to talk straight, let's talk straight. I mean,
Right.
Right.
Davis, you've been out there, you've talked to folks. If you want to get it how it is, they're going to give it to you that way.
That's right.
That's how we
That's right.
go.
Right.
And so I'll leverage that a whole bunch. But even today, there's still a little tinge of, man, I'm really a construction worker. I'll it's in my head, so I'll feel a little out of place, and that's part of the reason, maybe the fundamental reason for starting the podcast is it's not just because I have that imposter syndrome, because I think everybody has a degree of this damn imposter syndrome, but it's also because of the conditioning or the space that we're in where everyone around us. I mean, you don't see any action movies about plumbers, not yet. It's coming, and it's
Put a
coming,
pin in it.
right? Put a pin in that bad boy. But so the jobs in our industry are not sensationalized, and that's okay, right? Like I get it. Now we go further, start zooming in closer to home. Our education system, our teachers, when I was in school, the message I received was go to college or flip burgers. There was no other option. And
Yeah.
so the way that translated in my head is if I don't go to university, I'm a failure. And I can't blame the educators for that entirely. Part of it is because that is the only formula they know, because they had to get a degree to
That's
do
right.
the work that they were doing.
That's
So they
right.
hadn't been exposed to it. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but the last one I want to stop on is we confuse, and when I say we, I mean human beings. I think we confuse comfort with value. I mean, there is a value to be attached to comfort, but working in the industry and working with your
Mm.
hands, you're
Mm.
going to be exposed to the elements.
Mm.
Mhm.
When it's hot, baby, it's hot, and when
That's
it's
right.
cold, like it's cold. Man, you just
Yeah.
got to you got to work. You got to get up super early in the morning. You hit the job site 30, 45 minutes before 7 a.m. It's dark. You come home, it's dark.
Art. That's right.
So it's not very hospitable. And then there's other professions, because the trades are professionals, but there's other professions that start at 8 a.m. and they're safe, or maybe not safe, but away from the elements. So it's more comfortable.
Mm.
And because of this comfort level, it's given some level of status attached to it.
Higher status. Yeah.
It's a higher status, right? Because I
Right.
like look, I have an iron shirt. Like this is
Have
the
a
one.
jacket on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I get it because it looks shinier. So all of these things are happening, and construction ends up being the last thing. Kind of, if there's nothing else for you to do, maybe you can go get a job in construction. Then I'll add that even myself, I'll speak for myself. Back early in my early years as a plumbing apprentice, and my early years of being a journeyman plumber, I did a pretty good job of filling the negative stereotype, cussing and talking smack and catcalling ladies. I did all of that. So we don't do ourselves a favor when we behave that way. Now, at the same time, even though I was acting a fool, there were amazing human beings that if you look at them, like Fernando, he was our second or third interview. And he was really the person I had in mind when we started outlining how we were going to approach it and who our target guests were. Because Fernando, if you look at Fernando, he looks like a biker because he's a biker. He's got a bike, right? He's got
Mm.
a motorcycle club that he's a part of.
Cool.
Big burly dude, always wears the lokes, right? Always wears the sunglasses
Awesome.
inside, like that.
Inside.
He does it.
He fits it.
He fits it.
Stereotypical. Yeah.
Stereotypical.
Love it.
But man, that dude was pulled me into a nonprofit group that he was a part of, where every year, twice a year, there were two big major events. One was a boxed fan drive for a very low income part of our city here in San Antonio. And the other was a toy and bike drive. And I ain't kidding, man. When he first pulled me in, they got maybe 10, 20 bikes a year, and all the kids from the neighborhood would come because that was the only gifts they were gonna get. That thing is huge now. They're up to like 1,000 bikes and who knows how many damn gifts. So huge that they have like three phases. One where they deliver some gifts early, straight to people's homes. The other where they have the big event, and then a posting where they deliver the next batch of gifts.
That's incredible.
I never would have guessed that that man is doing those kinds of amazing things, because I see sweaty biker construction dude, but they're doing heroic things every day, and we just don't know. And so I think there's a lot of work to do, and I appreciate that y'all, like, we're sharing the mission in helping the general public understand that not only can you earn a hell of a living and do really rewarding work, but more importantly, Rene has said it, the heroes aren't all in Hollywood. They're right down the street on
So
that
good.
job site. They're the ones building the hospitals, building the schools, maintaining the utilities that keep everybody safe and comfortable on a daily basis.
That's so good. Now, I think this is really cool because we have two different viewpoints of this. And Rene, I want to hear from you too, because we have Jesse. You've been in it. You've been in it for a while, and you've seen how the construction has changed over the years. But Rene, you haven't been in as long. You're younger. You're I wouldn't say new to it, but you haven't seen this complete change over the years. Like Jesse has. So from your perspective, kind of what has it been like for you? Kind of have you felt that dirty construction worker trade type, from outside looking in, or has it kind of leveled off a little bit more in your opinion? What do you think? I have two questions for y'all, but that's my first one.
Yeah, so definitely I felt that before. Like I can recall a time when I was a utility technician. Um, as a utility technician, we do a lot of the first responder emergency type maintenance repairs. So like for example, we have a large diameter main break, and we make the shutdown, and now like 2 3 city blocks downtown are out of water, so you have to go right now and go fix it, right? Okay, so the first time I really felt that dirty construction stigma thrown at me was we were downtown in front of a bar, and we had just finished turning off the main, and you know the main is buried, right? So we have our operator digging with the backhoe, and naturally, when the backhoe's digging, you can't be in the hole while there's some heavy equipment going on. So we're
Right.
standing by, and we're sweeping up the little rocks here and there, and making sure the place is safe. Well, a passerby drives by, and they see us standing around while the operator's digging, and this dude like yells out the window. He's like, "Oh, this is how our taxpayer dollars. This is where our taxpayer dollars are going to. You're standing around. Like, what are you even doing?" And then he takes off, right? And I'm like, dude, like if only he knew
Right.
what's gonna happen when the operator gets to the main, when us two dirty construction workers are gonna literally save 3 blocks and get their water back on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this bar cannot flush their toilets right now because they don't have any water. All the bars on this strip of downtown, all these skyscrapers, everyone is out of water right now until the dirty construction worker fixes it. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I felt it. I've definitely felt it. But I've just as much as I felt it, I must admit I used to think the same thing. Like I was saying earlier, I was on a totally different trajectory than being in the trades. Is I was going to school, right, and I was going to be a teacher. That was the goal. So I don't have to do the back breaking work, right? And what's funny is when I started at that children's center, I think I was making like 9.25 an hour. Um, and I remember aspiring. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get my bachelor's degree, and I'm gonna become the lead teacher, right? Because I was an assistant teacher. Become the lead teacher, and I'll be making $15 an hour, because that's what they were making over there with a bachelor's degree. And
That's
like,
crazy.
fast forward, 6 years, I'm in the job I have now with no degree. I'm making $20 an hour. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's one misconception I want to talk about is one, this is not a dead end job. The trades are not a dead end job. There is tons of opportunity. Of course, there exist people, just like in any walk of life, there exist people that stay stuck in the entry level positions
That's right.
forever or their whole career until they retire because for whatever reason. And that exists here in the trades too. But there's just as much opportunity for growth. There's a lot of opportunity for growth. Like, shoot, and it doesn't have to take forever and ever either. Like,
Mhm.
I got into San Antonio water system. I believe it was in 2017. Yeah. It was in 2017. And it only took me to what, 2021, was that 5 years to make it to where I am now. So I moved up every year. Every year I moved up in a position because
Awesome.
you just put the work in, you put your nose to the grindstone, you get yourself educated, which the company pays for. They pay for your classes. Uh, they give you the time, they give you the resources, and voila, here I am. So I mean, there's tons of opportunity. It's super meaningful work. Like Jesse was saying, you meet some awesome people, man. We're trying to get this guy that I want to interview. He's my old foreman. His name, we call him Bino. His name's Sabino, but we call him Bino. And this guy's a freaking hero, man. Like, his story is so cool. Like, he started off at Lackland Water back in like 1950 something, dude. When like
Holy
dinosaurs were still walking around.
That's so
and he started off as a helper, and he had a kid. He had his son, and they were struggling to get to make ends meet. So what he had to do was he had bought an ice cream truck that was run down and didn't even go, but he bought it for like some ridiculously low amount, like $800 or something. And he got it going. And what he would do was he would drive the ice cream truck to work, park it there, charge it on at the little office area right after work, go sell ice cream for a while, finish that when it got dark, and then he ran a newspaper route.
Holy cow.
And for
that's
like,
crazy.
yeah, dude, like from like, I don't know, it was some ridiculous early hour playing. Like, I don't remember the hours, but it was nighttime to early in the morning, and then he would go home, sleep for like 3 or 4 hours, and then repeat the next day
Wow.
at like a very physically demanding job, all to make ends meet for his family.
Wow.
And fast forward 35 years later, he is like coasting. He is the happiest guy I know, the one of the wisest people I know, one of the most humble people I know. He's taught me like almost everything I know about the water system. And like that guy has like not a worry in the world. His house is paid off, his truck is paid off.
That's
He
crazy.
has like a business on the side. He's got it made in the shade, all by working in the trades. So like, it's just so cool that there's tons of people like this, and it could happen for you too, whoever's listening, if you just get in it.
So what for both of y'all, what would be your advice to those younger high school students, even people who are in their 20s or 30s who maybe didn't go to college, or maybe who did go to college but they don't like what they do, they want a career change? What would be your advice for them getting into the trades, getting into construction?
Ooh, buddy.
Man. You want to go first, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. You go ahead and think. I could see the smoke coming out of your head. My advice is, there's a little bit. There's a couple of them. My first advice is understand the environment that best suits your growth. And
good.
what I mean by that is, I'm not a dummy. I'm also not just a pretty face. When I was in high school, I was good at school. Like the classwork was a piece of cake, and I'm a closet nerd. Um,
I see that
my
bookshelf.
yeah, busted.
Yeah, see, look at Mr. Yale over there.
Watch out. Now, my problem was I could not sit still, meaning if I understood whatever material was being taught, okay, I'm done. I need something else.
That's right.
And also, I was easily distracted by the ladies. That's always been a problem for me. But in the classroom, when people like any space where I've got to be quiet and sit still and tiptoe around, it I'm just not equipped to do that. Even today, like if you and I are working in the same space and it's an office space and it's a quiet space, you will ask me to move or to leave because I'm singing, I'm dancing, like I fit. I'll send an email like, "Bam, done," and people are like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And I don't realize it. I just the way I do things. Um, so the classroom office space was very challenging for me, and it made me feel less than. I felt like I didn't belong. And whenever I have that feeling, and I think this is consistent for most people, the rate of growth is going to shrink. Because if I'm lacking confidence and feeling like I've got to behave other than what is real and true to me, then I'm not going to grow. So understand the space that best suits you first. And secondly, if you want to get into the trades, start buying some damn tools and ask a lot of questions.
That's good. Yeah.
Right? Like buy tools. I mean, I had a journeyman that I worked with right out of high school, and he would make me buy a brand new tool every week. If I didn't show up with a new tool, he would send me home. And it was yeah, man. I was like, you're not the boss of me. Like, yeah, he was. He sent my butt home. and that helped me build that habit of every week about a tool, bought a tool, bought a tool. And then you know what? Because I had my turbo torch, I got to work on the domestic water systems and not run 6 and 8 inch cast iron. Like I got to do the cooler work because I bought the tools. Cool. And I got to learn, like, oh, you got that tool? Let me go have you install these fixtures. Let me put you on the hydraulic.
How to use it now.
Yes. So that was I didn't know at the time, but the fact that I just had the tools opened up all these other doors for me to start learning and expanding my learning.
You could apply that to so many different areas, and it could be like metaphorical, figurative tools. It doesn't have to be physical tools. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Rene, before I just want to butt in real quick, it's like having the foresight. We had a guest on last week that he talked about he's wanted to be a form carpenter, but he was just a laborer. So what he did, he went and bought a tool belt, and I love that because now I don't even think twice about it. That makes a lot of sense. But when I was younger, like, man, that doesn't make sense. But go ahead, Rene. My bad.
No, that's fine. Somebody mentioned the figurative tools, right? So, like for example, like knowledge of how to use like an Excel, how to make like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah,
that has totally like freaking was a launching pad for me, learning how to work that because we got this new work changes. Yeah, like me and Jesse were talking about the other day. Work always changes, right? And it usually evolves, and it usually evolves towards the tech side. So at my job in leak detection, well, when I was in leak detection, we got this fancy satellite technology that used it. It uploaded the data to an Excel spreadsheet, and it had a bunch of errors because it's a machine and it's speaking machine language. So somebody needed to go translate it to human language. And guess who knew how to do that? Me. And because of that, because of this figurative tool that you were talking about, it opened the door and it got me exposed, or it it made supervisors look at me in a different light. And like you guys were saying, like, hey, this guy has this tool. Let's let him use that. Let's find a way to get him to use that tool more often, because it
Yeah.
brought a lot of value to the team.